सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। Living in the present is the topic of our discussion during this retreat. Living in the present is a very interesting topic because we are in the present. There is present, no doubt, but whether we live in the present or not is a good question. And before that, I think we should answer the question, what is meant by present? So our Puja Swamiji used to describe this in this way. You know what is past, which has gone by, what is future, which has not yet come. What is present is different from what has gone by and what has not yet come. So what is the duration of what we call present? What is the duration of what we call present? Is it 1 hour? Well, we cannot say that in 1 hour, a lot of things go are done past and something is going to come in the future. In 1 minute, there also is a length of time involving past and future, because at any one point there was the past and future. Is it 1 second? Whatever unit of time we think of, which has a certain duration, involves past as well as future. So ideally, what is present, which is free from any length of time. Moment we imagine length or duration of time, then it always involves either past or future. Therefore, present must be that time which is devoid of any dimension. Moment we bring in dimension of even 1 second or a millisecond, microsecond, megasecond, nanosecond, whatever kind of time we bring in, however minute that duration is, and still, as long as there is duration that we can conceive of, it involves both past, it includes past as well as future. Therefore, if you think about what is meant by present, the present cannot be in terms of time or duration of time. Present has to be durationless, dimensionless, and have timelessness. Although generally we understand present in terms of time, in terms of past, and in terms of future, we understand present as that which is devoid of past as well as future. That's what we call present, devoid of past as well as future. But then when we want to understand what is that present devoid of past and future, we find that that present cannot have any duration or dimension. The moment there is a dimension or duration of time, it will be a combination of past and future. Therefore, present means that which is dimensionless, durationless, dimensionless, timeless. Is it not so? So living in the present means living in timelessness. That's what it amounts to. Is there such a thing as timelessness? Because anything that we experience, anything that we perceive through our senses, or experience with our mind, anything that we experience in any way, always has a duration, has a dimension, otherwise we cannot experience it. For something to become the object of my experience, it should have some name, some form, some attribute. And therefore, it should have been created. What is created also will end, it should be perishable. Therefore, it should have length, width, depth, dimension. So whatever we experience cannot be timeless, cannot be dimensionless. What we experience will have a dimension in terms of length, breadth, depth, duration of time, name, form, attribute. Otherwise, we cannot experience something because our organs of perception can only experience that which is attribute. The organ of hearing can only experience that which is sound. An organ of touch can experience that which has touch, eyes which has form or color, our palate which has taste, our nose which has smell. Our mind also can experience that which is some attributes, some qualities, attributes, qualifications. Therefore, what is present? That which cannot become the object of our experience. What is that? What would be that which cannot become the object of my experience? One entity cannot become the object of my experience. Who is that? That is the experiencer or the subject. The subject cannot become the object of my experience because an experience involves this duality or division between the object and the subject. Right now I'm experiencing you, I'm seeing you. You are the object of my seeing, perception. I'm the subject, the perceiver, and I have to be different from you. There has to be a separation between the object, the subject has to be separate from the object. The duality of division has to be there for the experience to take place. Experience involves the duality of the division of the object and subject, experienced and experiencer. So anything that is different from me can become the object of experience. Even though it may not be the object of experience now or here. For example, things that are in heaven, if there is it's a realm called heaven, is nitya paroksha, meaning that it can never become the object of perception as long as I am here in this world. For experiencing what is in heaven, I should go to heaven. But when I do go to heaven, if I do, what is in heaven will become the object of my experience. So either what is experienced or what is experienceable, understand? What is experienced or what is subject to being experienced is all in the category of known object. I am different from that. So the next question is, can the experiencer become the object of experience? Understand that every experience involves a duality or division between the experienced and experiencer, where the experiencer stands apart from what is experienced. Then only something can become the object of experience. Can I, the experiencer, become the object of my experience? Can I stand apart from myself? For me to stand apart from myself, I must split myself. For me to become the experiencer of myself, I need to split myself into the I that is experienced and the I that is experiencer. Because the experiencer should necessarily be different from what is experienced as it is right now. For me to experience, I should experience myself, I should stand there to experience myself, but I should be here also to be experiencer, isn't it? For me to experience myself, I should become the object of my experience as well as the subject of experience or experiencer. Because every experience necessarily involves this duality of experience and experiencer. So imagine, for me to experience myself, I should be experiencer for an experience to take place, and if I have to experience myself, I should also become the object of my experience. Therefore, simultaneously, I should become experienced as well as experiencer. Understand this? Just as simultaneously you are experienced and I am experiencer, when I am different from you, then for me to experience myself, I should simultaneously be what is experience, the object of experience, and experiencer, the subject. Meaning that I should split myself into two, exclusive entity, because experienced excludes experiencer, experiencer excludes experienced. Is it not so? When I experience, I don't include you in myself. And what is experienced does not include me. So an experience requires two entities that exclude each other. This is very important, very important concept to understand. And we will see how this understanding the concept is, can be made practical. It's not just theoretical. Inasmuch as an experience involves the duality of experienced and experiencer, where experiencer excludes experienced, and experiencer feels excluded by what is experienced. When you are looking at me right now, you are seeing me, perceiving me, experiencing me. I am sure that I am not in your radar that you are. In your concept of you, you don't include me, I would assume. When I'm experiencing you, I don't include you in I. Isn't that so? In my notion of I am so and so, the speaker, the experiencer, in that I, you are not included. You are separate, I am separate. So that separation, exclusion, division, this is called duality in Vedanta. Dvaitam or duality is mutual exclusion. Two is not called duality. Need not be. Two need not be called duality. For example, if I am standing in front of a mirror, I experience something, some entity. When I stand in front of a mirror, I see something, what is it? My reflection. Then also I am experiencer, and that is experienced. But still, in my notion of I, that is included, Is it not so? When I see the reflection in the mirror, I don't get the idea that I am seeing something other than myself, do I? When I am talking to you right now, in my mind, what is the notion that I am talking to someone different from me? But when I see that reflection in the mirror, in my mind the idea that I am looking at someone different from me, that idea does not come. Is it not so? If it comes, then there is some problem. Like this man in the morning, he came excited from his bathroom and says to his wife, "Hey, not one plate of breakfast, make 2 plates. We have a guest." So when did the guest come? Wife said, I saw him this morning. Where do you see him? Come, let me show you. He took her to the bathroom. See, this is a guest here. Oh, not one, there are 2 guests, she says, This must be a joke, this cannot be reality. If that is so, then we need some other kind of treatment. But I'm sure when I see my reflection, that doesn't create an idea that this is a guest, some strange new entity. That idea is not, because every day I see my reflection in the morning. Oh, a new guest has come this morning. That doesn't happen occur in my mind. I know that what I am seeing is my own self. Meaning that in that case, the duality or exclusion doesn't happen. So even though there are 2, there is no division or duality. That's what I mean. 2 does not necessarily make duality. Dvaita, understand what Vedanta means by Dvaita. Although Dvi means 2 and Dvaita is a state of 2, but merely 2 doesn't make Dvaita. What makes Dvaita? The division makes the Dvaita. If by some miracle it happens that I see all of you as my reflection, suppose something happens by which I see you as my reflection, then in spite of countless you being there, there will not be Dvaita, you follow? No division. There can be 2 and there can be 20 and there can be countless entities can be there. And still, Dvaita or division need not be there. In our life, our problem is not 2 or many or even countless. That doesn't cause any difficulty in me, doesn't cause fear, insecurity, stress, distress, anxiety, tension. This 2 doesn't create that. That's what is called samsara. What is samsara? Sorrow is called samsara. And all of these, whether it is called fear, anxiety, stress, all of these are part of sorrow, and that's all samsara. So right now what causes sorrow in me? Anxiety in me? Distress in me? This world is one and I am another one. Then I have to deal with the world in some way. Then I play games in my mind. Outwardly I may be one thing, but in my mind I play games. How to keep these people happy, or how to make them unhappy, how to exclude them, how to make them see what they are, how to make them see who I am. Something or the other is going on. When the 2 are there, some game is going on. I cannot be comfortable. Even though I may be a good person, I may not play games, still I can't be totally comfortable as long as I see you as separate from me. So understand where Vedanta comes from. Vedanta addresses the basic problem of samsara, sadness of the human being. This sadness includes everything, all kinds of anxieties and distress, agitations in my mind. So fear also is kind of stressness, anxiety also is stress, hurt, guilt, everything is stress. Vedanta, that is our primary problem. Whether we have wealth or not, whether we are famous or not, whether we are powerful or not, whether I am here or I am in heaven or not, Vedanta, that's not the problem. That would not matter to me at all if I knew the things properly. That won't matter. Right now these things matter. Whether you respect me or not is very important to me right now. And therefore I play games in my mind such that you respect me, I become respect. I will dress in some way, do whatever is required. Never comfortable, never totally at ease. Being totally at ease is called freedom. And that cannot be as long as there is duality or division or Dvaita, as I explained. So what is present? Present is that which has no dimension. That means no duality. Even no duality of experiencer and experienced. The experience and experience can be there, but duality need not be. When I look upon the experience that's different from me, then there is duality, that they are what they are, I am not that, and thus we exclude each other. But coming back to my experience of looking at my reflection, even though experience is there, the 2 are there. In parallel mirrors there can be any number of entities. Many Swamis can be there. Or if those mirrors are all different kinds, some of them convex mirrors, some of them concave mirrors, then Swami would look different in every mirror. And funny. If I did not know what the mirror does, then I may be scared. What happens to me? What happened this morning? I become so fat all of a sudden. If there is different from me, then there is all problem. But today I laugh at those reflections, knowing very well that they are me, I am that. Therefore, those distortions and reflections do not in any way cause any anxiety or distress in me. The division is there, what is seen there is different. That's a different matter. So this topic of living in the present, when we understand what is present is dimensionless, if it's dimensionless, then it cannot become the object of experience, because only something having a dimension can become the object of my experience. Something that has length, width, attributes, qualities. Because my sense organs can only grasp those things having those attributes. My mind can only grasp those things which have names, forms, attributes, qualities, peculiarities. And that experience will involve the duality, division, will involve dimension. So what is present? Which has no dimension in time? So no dimension in space, no dimension in qualities or objectivity or attributes, dimensionless. Question, is there such an entity in this world which is dimensionless, no length, no width, nothing? No qualities, no qualifications? Is there such an entity? Can you think of that? Can you think of something that has no length, no width, no dimension, no attributes? My mind cannot think. What the mind thinks of is going to have those attributes. Which means the so-called present cannot become the object of my experience. And who is that which cannot become the object of experience? The experiencer, is it not so? Because the conventional experience involves experiencer different from experience, that's going to be duality, that's going to have a dimension, that's going to have a limitation in time, place, objectivity. The present means limitless. He said, there is no duration of time means not limitation of time. There was no limitation of place. There was no limitation of attributes. Limitless. Living in present means living in limitlessness, And where is that limitlessness? Whatever experience has always limitations that I know. So limitlessness cannot be the object of experience. And what is that? The very experiencer cannot become the object of experience. A famous statement from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Vijñātāramare kena vijaniyāt. Say Yagnvalkya says to Maitreyi, Are, oh my dear Maitreyi, Vijñātāram kena vijaniyāt. Vijñātāram is the second case, objective case. Shows what? The object of Vijñāta. Vijñāta means what? Jñāta means knower. Vijñātāram, the knower. Kena, which case? Third case. Instrumental case. With what? Or by what? Vijaniyat is the verb. Hey Maitreyi, with what would one know the knower? Meaning that, hey Maitreyi, knower cannot be known. Knower cannot become the object of knowledge. You should not get scared when you hear this. This looks like very intimidating, but no, it's not. Simple. It has been made very intimidating when you don't understand. Otherwise, it's very simple. Maitri was highly confused because she also was trying to do the same thing and said, "Oh, sir, you are confusing me." Hey Maitri, I am not confusing you, I am saying something that is simple. How can you know the knower? So that statement can mean that you cannot know the knower. Or it can mean you don't have to worry about knowing the knower. Don't attempt to know the knower. Why? Because you are the knower. Which means that just be yourself. That's all it means. You already are a knower, therefore don't worry about creating a knower. See, when we know things, for example, when I want to know you, see you, for example, a seer must be created here. Then you become the seen, then the seer seen creates an experience of seeing. When can you hear me? A hearer must be created. Then if it doesn't get created, you don't hear me, by the way. Even though I am talking so loudly, it's quite likely that these words are not heard if the hearer is not created. So knower must be created to know things different from the knower. Yajnavalkya says, don't just make an attempt to know the knower. You are the knower, just become the knower. We'll talk about that, but the point is that there is something called the present, which is the dimensionless, which is limitless, which cannot become the object of experience, which means it is the very truth or content of the knower, which is the I, which is what we call the self. Living in the present means what? Living in the self. That's very strange. I'm already self, I'm living in myself, am I not? We are. Where else can we live? Where is this pot? Can you see that pot here? Where is it? On the table, isn't it? If I remove the table, where will the pot be? On the ground. You remove the ground, where will the pot be? Someplace else. That's one way of looking at where the pot is. Is there other way of looking at where the pot is? See, we say that pot is on the table. When you remove the table, the pot loses its support, so falls down. Is there something else which will not let the pot be what it is when we remove? Where is the pot? For Vedantin, the pot is in the clay. Is it not clay? Remove the clay, the pot doesn't remain. If you remove table, pot will be someplace else. You remove that, someplace else, pot will remain. Remove the clay, there is no pot. So where is pot? The clay. Clay is that of which pot is made. Without clay, the pot cannot be. The Vedantin says clay is the Atma of the pot. Clay is the self of the pot. Without which pot cannot be a pot. So pot doesn't have to become clay, does it have to? Hey pot, how can you become the clay? You don't have to. Recognize that you are clay. Follow that. That's how the knowledge comes into play. Why the Vedantins emphasize knowledge so much? Not doing something, etc. Why knowledge? Knowledge of what is. And therefore, a pot has to know that I am clay. Similarly, we are the self. You still have to know that we are the self. So living in the present means living in myself, being myself, which I already am, and therefore nothing has to be done for living in the present. what is to be done is remove the non-self from myself. This is just an introduction to this present and how once we understand what it is that we are seeking in life, understand that this is what we are seeking. Then only there is no division, because the only entity with which I am not divided, not separated is myself. Where there is separation, when there is division, there is going to be a stress or distress, as I just described. There is all apprehension. What do you think of me? When I confront you, who is separate from me always, what does this person think of me? Does he like me? Not like me? Will he harm me? Hurt me? Help me? Depends on my own complexes in various ways, but moment you are different from me, different kinds of train of thinking goes on in different people. Not everybody is afraid, etc., but some train of thinking will take place in duality. That thinking is not a problem, stress is a problem, sorrow is a problem. Life is not a problem, experience is not a problem, thinking is not the problem, many is not the problem, nothing is a problem. Only when these things create in me stress, fear, anxiety, sorrow, that is the problem. It doesn't have to cause. Vedanta says if you understand what it is, what things are, there is no reason for any sorrow. So Bhagavad Gita and Upanishad, there is a top subject matter of all Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita also. So Bhagavad Gita describes a person who is living in the present. In Bhagavad Gita he is called the Sthita Prajna, a person of abiding wisdom. What is the state of his mind? Atmaneva Atmana Tushtaha, one who is completely satisfied with one's own self. When I am satisfied with myself. What's the big deal, Swamiji? My being satisfied with myself. What's the big deal? That's the big deal. Just look into yourself. Are you satisfied with yourself? Are you happy with yourself? One entity that makes me unhappy is myself. Who makes me unhappy? My own self. Because I don't think I am what I want to be or what I should be. I have a picture or ideal about myself and I keep on judging myself based on what that ideal is, and more often than not I find myself short of that expectation. So in the words of Pujya Swamiji, I am the problem to myself, which I am not satisfied, which does not live up to my own expectation, which does not meet with my expectation. So wise person is described. Atmaneva Atmana Tushtaha. One who is satisfied with himself by himself. You think, what's the big deal? Vedanta, this is the greatest accomplishment in life, being satisfied by myself, with myself. That is the highest accomplishment. That's called moksha. Very simple thing. You think that moksha is going to some specific realm, or moksha means some kind of powers, or some siddhis or spiritual powers or some such thing, then we would think it is moksha. We always associate all kinds of romantic ideas of powers, etc., with any spiritual accomplishment. Which may very well be so, but Vedanta talks of a very simple accomplishment, which is feasible for everybody. Those accomplishments of, flying in the air and walking on the earth and walking on the water and reading everybody's mind and transforming water into milk, all these may be there, which is not for everybody. And Vedanta would say that even after accomplishing those things also, the problem still remains, because it's still trying to accomplish something more. No accomplishment of any kind can give us any sustained satisfaction. It gives excitement when you don't have it. When you get it, it's nice. Like getting a new car, and you're excited for a period of time. Then you get used to that. Like moving into a new beautiful house which you were planning for so many years and finally you did it. You move there, a lot of excitement there for a period of time. Any great accomplishment also gives us some satisfaction or happiness for a period of time. Nothing can give me sustained happiness. So here is a person who enjoys sustained happiness because he does not require anything other than himself to be happy. If we require something other than ourselves, then we may get used to that, we may get bored with it also. With the best things also, with the best movie also, how many times will you watch it? People used to do when television came to India in I think 82 or something. And then they were talking about these movies and videos, and then they were showing whole night people watching one movie after the other. Like a child which is taken to a toy shop, or take me to a sweet shop or something like that, So, but then how long? Then people got used to that. What next? The question of what next always remains. Like Swami Viditatmananda traveling in his ship going to United States, and he sees a young man. Swami was already very famous and everybody would assemble around him, and this young man was avoiding, wouldn't go to him. So Vivekananda himself then took the opportunity to go to him, confronted him, says, "How are you doing? What is it?" Very well, with great affection. Young man says, "I'm so and so, where are you going? Going to the United States." "Then what?" "I'll go to university." "Then what?" "I'll become doctor." "Then what?" "I'll start my practice." "Then what?" "I'll become wealthy." "Then what?" "I'll buy a car." "Then what?" "I'll buy a house." "Then what?" "I'll get married." "Then what?" "I will have children." "Then what?" "I'll send them to school." "Then what?" "He'll also become doctor." "Then what?" "He'll also become prosperous." "Then what?" This then what, the fellow got, ultimately he became angry. "What do you mean then what? Then what? What? Then what? I'll go back to India. Then what? Then I'll die." Doing all of this ultimately for dying or what? The question of then what is going to remain. As long as something different from me, then what will remain? Because the attraction it can have or fascination I have for it is very conditional. When those conditions are not there, the fascination is no more there. Unconditionally, only one thing fascinates me, or I love unconditionally. Atma Sukamaya Saram Priyam Bhavati. What is dear to me is because the self, the pleased self is dear to me. I can never get bored with that. I cannot get bored with happiness. And since Atma is happiness, I can never get bored with the self. Sustain happiness. Because happiness is the nature of the self. Atmaneva Atmana Tushtaha. Very simple accomplishment, understand? Moksha is very simple. Not out of this world. Or you say whole world is included anyway, but it's not something that is beyond me. I cannot be beyond me, I am myself. So this whole idea that Vedanta talks of something is fine, Vedanta is not for me. They think that something else is for them, which is all right, but you shouldn't say Vedanta is not for me, because Vedanta is for me. I cannot say it's not for me, it is for me. In what sense? Why? Because that's what I've been seeking all the time. And Vedanta is meant to help me accomplish what it is I am seeking. So Lord Krishna presents a picture of the one who is living in the present. What is the present? Dimensionless. What is dimensionless? That which cannot become the object of experience. And what is that? The very experiencer, the nature of experiencer. Our Swami used to use the expression, the meditation upon the meditator. But the idea is that there is already what I am. And therefore, it is a matter of discovering what I am rather than experiencing what I am. Knowledge of what I am. So living in the present is knowing myself, just being myself. Here, you know the 10th man story, I won't have to tell you that. When I start and people get scared, so wait, Swamiji, he's going to take 15 minutes again to describe the same story, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll go on again and again. But I still mention to make sure that everybody's heard this story. I hope that in this audience, nobody who has not heard this story of 10th man. Now sometimes I do find people in the audience. No, Swami, please tell. Either he wants to hear the story, and so he says, I have not heard. So, what is nothing to be accomplished there, isn't it? Because already it is praptasya prapti, isn't it? Last evening I had a very funny thing, very often it happens to me anyway. So I finished my dinner and then I was wearing my mask and somebody brought something else which was attractive, Otherwise I would say, I finished my food. But this one I could not deny. So I just slipped my mask down, enjoyed what was given to me. My usual practice is to look for the mask after I finished eating. So there is a thing like this, a bag in which, so I was looking for this bag because I finished. So connected with the completing of my food is looking for the mask. Say, where is my mask? People were very kind, Swamiji, it's only... So already here it was the praptasya prapti, but then it can happen. I keep on giving it, but yesterday there was a very practical example of praptasya prapti. As simple as that. For that the mind also should be in the present. That requires, for me, I have to become the present, for which the mind should be in the present. So our discussion basically will be how to enjoy a mind that is in the present. That is when the mind becomes enjoyable. That's when I become enjoyable to myself, which is what I am seeking. Not knowing that I am the enjoyable one to myself, I am seeking enjoyment in other places, but really what I am seeking is nothing but the enjoyable self. So when somebody serves me ice cream, or Rasagulla, what was it last night? Something was there. Rasagulla. Okay. Came late, after I finished everything. Otherwise, keep some room inside my stomach to have more of that. But anyway. But when I enjoy the Rasagulla, what happens to me? A pleased self is created. The Rasagulla just becomes a nimitta, becomes only instrumental in creating the pleased self. It doesn't happen to everybody. The same Rasagulla was offered to other Swami, not me. Somebody may not like it, it's too sweet for me. Other one says, I'm too sweet already. There could be various reasons why the Rasagulla may not create any, excitement in somebody. In which case it fails to create the pleased self, in which case it cannot become the object of my enjoyment. You understand? When do I enjoy something? When that something is able to create in me the pleased self. So what do I really enjoy, I enjoy the pleased self. That's what I enjoy. But since right now I do not know how to create that pleased self, because every time I look at myself, I'm always a crying self and my anxious self and stuff like that. That's what I find myself to be. When I'm with myself, I want to run away from myself. I distract myself, keep myself busy with one thing or the other, so that I don't have to confront myself. And then I look for something that can create a pleased self in me. So what do I really enjoy? At any time I'm happy, I enjoy something. You know what do I enjoy? I enjoy the pleased self. When enjoying a flower, beautiful flower, fragrant flower, very smooth to touch. Shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha, all the things are here. The flower makes me happy. The flower is able to create in me a pleased self. Even the other flower that may not do that. I don't think this color is just too faded. I may have some complaint, some dissatisfaction about this flower. Not that I have, but I could have. I'm not supposed to have dissatisfaction as Swami, therefore I cannot have it. Also some expectation from Swami. You can't be dissatisfied with anything. You can't complain, Swamiji. Anyway, but it is likely in my mind that a given thing may not create a pleased self, in that I can't enjoy this. So understand, what am I enjoying at any time? When I'm happy, what do I enjoy? Atmanastu kamaya. This becomes dear to me. It becomes an object of enjoyment because it is able to create in me a pleased self. Very basic secret of our life. Paramam Guhyam, Lord Krishna says it is the king of all the secrets. Is that what I am seeking, what I am enjoying is the pleased self. What I am seeking is pleased self through these entities, understand? So what is called samsara? Samsara is seeking pleased self from entities other than myself, which is very unreliable, isn't it? You can never be sure that this thing tomorrow will do the same thing or not. They bring this flower every day. Beautiful flowers. I don't know where they come from. I'm sure they must be buying it. Whatever it is. They are so kind that these two flowers are there all the time. So I generally make sure that I use them also. But then, I love this flower because the flower creates in me the pleased self, And what I really love is the pleased self. There is an unconditional love for the pleased self. At any time, pleased self I will love. At any place, under any condition, the pleased self I always love. There is unconditional love for the pleased self. Love for this other entity is conditional. As long as they create the pleased self, so long they remain object of love. If they do not, so then, what is present? Dimensionless. What is that? My own self. And therefore, to live in the present is what? Live in myself. Right now, I am not only with myself, because what I need is a pleased self to be able to live with myself. One thing I have no problem with is a pleased self. No complaint against the pleased self. I love the pleased self. I love to become the pleased self. I will not mind remaining a pleased self any as long as possible. Everything else, nothing else I can tolerate for all the time. Not even the dearest person, let us have some space right now. Leave me alone. But this pleased self, no space. At all time, all place and all conditions. So this living in the present is a very important thing. It amounts to what? Living in the pleased self. Something that I always wanted, something that I always want. And so, this is what is the goal of our life, and this is what we are seeking. If you understand what we are seeking, then it becomes very simple. Then we know what to do. Once the goal or destination or end is clear, then the means becomes clear. So Vedantins always begin with trying to understand the end of the goal. Then the means become clear. There used to be a book, what is it called? I don't know right now, The Means and the End. So end is what the Vedantin first discusses. Then the means become very easy to understand. So living in the present is a goal. Because living in the present means living in myself. That I am already, but no, living in the pleased self. Self I already am. What is necessary is to be the pleased self. To live in the pleased self is what we are seeking, because that's all we want. Or if you analyze or examine what we want, it will turn out to be this. What is the desire behind all the desires? Is the desire for the pleased self. That is the self. That is the present. That means living in the present. So this will be that is the topic. This is the goal. And how relevant, one should understand what is the relevance of this. Please living in the present. Okay, it's like one of those things. There are many things that we hear. You may go and listen about diabetes and about something or other, and is it something like that? Living in the present also is one of those things? Good to know, Swamiji. Your class was good. Good to know. And you know something about a planet, new planet, very exciting. A new place. No, it's not that. It is not just exciting. It is something very relevant. It is the only thing that is relevant. If other things are relevant in our life, it is because of this. When they become helpful to me in creating this pleased self, then they become relevant to me. Therefore, what is most relevant, most important, most practical is this pleased self. So living in the present is living in that pleased self. And that's what Vedanta teaches us. We'll continue our discussion. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.